It was once untouchable, the king of phones, a symbol of reliability, innovation, and power. For years, one name ruled the world of mobile technology: Nokia. From the streets of Europe to the markets of Asia, from boardrooms to playgrounds, everyone either had a Nokia phone or wanted one. And yet, within a single decade, that empire crumbled. The same company that built the world's communication future was suddenly left behind, overtaken by brands that didn't even exist when Nokia was at its peak. How could the world's biggest phone maker lose it all so fast? What really happened behind the scenes? Today, we'll explore the rise and fall of Nokia and how it lost the smartphone war. But before we dive into this fascinating journey through innovation, pride, and missed chances, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves stories about technology and business empires. Because this story isn't just about phones, it's about how even giants can fall when they stop listening to change. Let's rewind to the beginning. Long before smartphones, apps, and touchscreens, Nokia wasn't even a tech company. It started in 1865 in Finland as a paper mill. Yes, paper. The company's founder, Fredrik Idestam, opened a small mill near the Nokian River, which later inspired the company's name, Nokia. Over the years, Nokia expanded. It entered new industries: rubber, cables, and electronics. By the late 20th century, it had evolved into a diverse conglomerate, producing everything from tires and TVs to communication equipment. But it was in the 1980s and 1990s that Nokia discovered its destiny: mobile phones. At a time when mobile technology was bulky, expensive, and unreliable, Nokia saw potential. While other companies hesitated, Nokia took risks. They believed that mobile communication would define the future. And they were right. By the 1990s, Nokia's focus shifted almost entirely to telecommunications. The world was changing fast, and Nokia was leading that change. The company's engineers were brilliant, its design teams creative, and its leadership ambitious. Then came 1992, the year that changed everything. Nokia released its first truly mobile consumer phone, the Nokia 1011. It was one of the first phones to use GSM technology, allowing for international roaming and digital communication. It wasn't sleek by today's standards, but back then, it was revolutionary. From that point onward, Nokia became unstoppable. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, Nokia released one hit after another. The Nokia 3310, launched in 2000, became a cultural icon. It was nearly indestructible, had incredible battery life, and came with the most addictive game of its time, Snake. People still talk about it today. But Nokia wasn't just about durability, it was also about design and innovation. The company created phones for everyone, from simple models for everyday use to luxury phones for professionals. In many countries, owning a Nokia wasn't just practical, it was a status symbol. At its peak, Nokia controlled over 40% of the global mobile phone market. Think about that. Almost 1 in every 2 phones sold worldwide was a Nokia. That level of dominance is almost unheard of in today's tech world. But the real magic of Nokia was its culture. It wasn't just a company, it was a national symbol for Finland. It put the small Nordic country on the global map. People in Finland were proud that their tiny nation led the world in communication technology. So, what went wrong? How does a company go from being #1 in the world to nearly disappearing in less than a decade? The answer isn't simple. It's a story of innovation and pride, success and fear, vision and denial. To understand Nokia's fall, we first need to understand how the smartphone revolution began and how Nokia responded to it. In 2007, Apple unveiled the first iPhone, a sleek device with a touchscreen, a full web browser, and a revolutionary design. Most of the tech world was stunned, but Nokia, they weren't impressed. Inside Nokia's headquarters in Espoo, Finland, many executives dismissed the iPhone as a niche product, too expensive, too limited, and too fragile for the mass market. They believed their own phones were still unbeatable. After all, Nokia's models had better battery life, stronger signals, and years of trust behind them. But the iPhone wasn't just another phone, it was a platform. Apple had changed the game. The future of phones wasn't in hardware anymore, it was in software. Apps, user experience, and ecosystems would define the next era. And that's where Nokia began to fall behind. At that time, Nokia's phones ran on a system called Symbian. It was powerful for its day, but outdated and complicated for developers. Creating apps for Symbian was difficult, and the user interface felt clunky compared to the smooth experience of iOS. While Apple focused on simplicity and design, Nokia focused on specifications and features. They kept adding more buttons, better cameras, and stronger hardware, but missed the growing importance of a seamless user experience. Then came Android. Google's open-source mobile operating system started appearing on devices from companies like HTC, Samsung, and LG. It spread fast, offering an easy, flexible, and modern alternative to both iOS and Symbian. Nokia had a chance to join early. Google invited Nokia to partner with them and use Android, but Nokia declined. Its leadership believed they could still win with their own system. They didn't want to give up control of their software or brand identity. That decision would prove fatal. By the time Nokia realized how powerful Android would become, it was already too late. Competitors like Samsung were racing ahead. Consumers started expecting touchscreens, app stores, and modern designs, and Nokia's phones suddenly felt like they were from another era. Internally, Nokia was also struggling. Employees described the company as having a culture of fear. Managers were afraid to deliver bad news. Teams hesitated to challenge leadership. Innovation slowed down, not because of a lack of talent, but because of too much bureaucracy. Imagine being a Nokia engineer in 2008. You know the iPhone is changing the market, you know Symbian isn't keeping up, but your bosses insist everything's fine. That was the reality. The company's size, once its greatest strength, had turned into its biggest weakness. Meanwhile, Apple and Android manufacturers were building ecosystems, connecting phones to apps, services, and cloud systems. Nokia tried to catch up with projects like OV Store, their version of an app store, but it felt half-baked and arrived too late. The company did try new ideas. It launched the Nokia N97, a high-end smartphone with a touchscreen and a slide-out keyboard. But it was buggy, slow, and disappointing compared to what users were getting from iPhones and Android devices. As the years passed, Nokia's market share began to collapse. The numbers tell a painful story. In 2007, Nokia sold over 400 million phones. By 2012, that number had fallen by more than half. Desperate to reinvent itself, Nokia made a bold move. In 2011, it announced a partnership with Microsoft. Together, they would create phones running on the Windows Phone operating system. At first, the idea sounded promising. Microsoft had deep pockets and software expertise. Nokia had hardware excellence and global reach. Together, they could form a third ecosystem, an alternative to Apple and Android. But there was a problem. Windows Phone, while elegant in design, had very few apps. Developers didn't want to invest in a platform with such a small user base, and users didn't want to buy phones without apps. It became a loop that Nokia couldn't escape. The partnership also created confusion. Some customers weren't sure what Nokia stood for anymore. Was it a Finnish company? A Microsoft brand? Was it still innovative? By 2013, the damage was done. Nokia's smartphone sales kept dropping, and the company was losing money fast. That year, Microsoft announced it would buy Nokia's mobile phone business for $7.2 billion. For many, it was the end of an era. The company that had once defined the mobile industry had sold its crown jewel. But the story didn't end there. After the sale, Nokia focused on its network infrastructure business, Nokia Networks, which quietly became profitable again. Meanwhile, the Nokia brand itself made a small comeback later under a new company, HMD Global, which licensed the Nokia name and started releasing Android-based phones. But the golden age, the era when Nokia ruled the world, never returned. So what lessons can we learn from Nokia's rise and fall? The first is simple. Never underestimate disruption. Nokia didn't fail because it lacked talent or resources. It failed because it misunderstood the nature of change. It kept improving what used to matter, while the world moved on to what would matter next. The second lesson, innovation isn't just about invention, it's about adaptation. Nokia had brilliant engineers, but leadership didn't listen to them. When companies stop adapting, even small changes in technology can become existential threats. The third lesson, culture matters. A company built on fear and bureaucracy will eventually suffocate innovation. Nokia's internal politics prevented honest conversations about failure. And when truth disappears, disaster follows. And finally, success can be dangerous. When you're on top, it's easy to believe you'll stay there forever. Nokia's greatest mistake was thinking its past victories would protect it from future challenges. Today, when we look back, it's hard not to feel nostalgic. The sound of the old Nokia ringtone, the durability of those classic phones, the pride of holding a 3310 that could survive anything. But maybe Nokia's story isn't just a tale of failure. It's a reminder that technology moves faster than pride, that innovation demands humility, and that even the greatest empires can fall if they forget to evolve. If you've enjoyed this story and learned something new, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into the rise and fall of the world's biggest companies. Because every story of failure hides lessons for the future. And who knows, maybe one day, Nokia's story will rise again.